episode 1 of Inside the Ring today. Today we're going to be discussing, of course, the recent lockdown that we've all been put in, how it's affected the club, and of course how it's affecting our students, which is why we've got some special guests today. So firstly, we've got our regular panellist here, Coach Johnny. Hi Johnny, how are you? Welcome, mate. That's my little clap. Now, we've also got today some special guests. We've got young Aryan and his father, Dee. Hi, guys. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Let's give them a round of applause. Very good. Normally here we've got a studio audience, but just because of social distancing, we haven't got them today. And we've also got Sempai Michelle, who assists in many of our classes, so she'll be here today, putting in a little bit of a word on your expertise, which is, of course, in the social working side of things. We'll get to that more in a minute. But did we give you a clap? All right, so of course we've been thrust back into lockdown once again. Without sort of being too political, I've got to try and keep my mouth shut here a little bit. It is what it is, I suppose. So there's not a lot that we can do about things, and all we can do really is just get on with the job. So I remember the first I heard of it was a text message from you.
I was just driving and the announcement came on the radio that the Premier was about to make his speech. And he brought it up there and got straight onto our Facebook page and Premier speaking. So
right.
That was a bit sad.
Well, it's funny too because Fleur was saying to me that she was expecting it. She was saying that from the way the numbers are going, even though City of Casey have been doing extremely well, and I think that's a point that we need to remember as well, is that the City of Casey in the last 48 hours hasn't recorded any new cases at all, which is absolutely fantastic. So really it's coming more so from the northern suburbs and around the city. And when you think about that, it does make a lot of sense because you're talking about densely populated areas. Out here in the burbs, even though some of our gutters might rub together, we're still fairly spread, which is a good thing. So the inner city living, of course, is going to experience these problems a little bit more, but it is what it is, I suppose. So here we go for another 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So that could potentially mean another 6 episodes of this show. Are you ready for a
sure.
You did a great job last time. You did really well. Now, the reason why I've got our guests on here today is because the way that people handle adversity and diversity is extremely important, and we need to look into that a little bit more. And what I'm talking about more so in the next 2 episodes really is mental health and how it affects not just the community as a whole, but really the individual. And we all have our own emotions and our own ways of dealing with things. I know that the last couple of days I've been a roller coaster. I really have. And I've gone through it all. At first I didn't believe it, and then was really sad because of it. Yesterday I was just angry all day, because all I wanted to do was just get back to what it is that we love to do so much, and of course to get the club back up and running. And we'd only just started. And then all of a sudden we're taking a nosedive again. But as they say, with every great setback comes an even greater comeback. And I'm pretty used to coming back, so I'm pretty much right in the wheelhouse now.
I think we've all been in that process though, going through those stages of grief, the anger and denial, and going through all of those.
So, young Aryan, the last time we had lockdown, you and your dad here posted some videos about how you're coping with the lockdown and how you're coping with staying at home and not training, and of course your response to the online classes, which we thought was great. So really we're going to discuss those 3 particular things today, and I'd like to get from a younger student's perspective, I suppose, how it affects you. So therefore, us as coaches can perhaps do something about it and tailor this a little bit more to guys just like you. How does that sound? Good? All right. All right, so firstly, whose idea was it to make the videos?
Well, I think my dad helped me with the interview. I think me and my dad decided to make an interview instead of a normal video, and I forgot the reason why.
Yep.
So the bit more background, if I can elaborate. So we both like making videos, just like yourself, video editing, And so one of the topics that you mentioned was mental health, right? And one of the things that a lot of adults forget is mental health also affects kids, right? So with everything that we've been exposed and experienced to, what I wanted to understand from a parent is what a child has experienced, gone through, what have they been exposed to, how they're feeling, right? And I wanted to sort of intertwine that with the sort of guidance and the direction that SEMA, the coaches, have provided back. So I wanted to make these videos with Aryan, with his consent, make sure he's comfortable, to understand, how he's gone, right? How's he feeling? No holds barred, right? And then second to that, what has he taken from the club, the guidance, the direction, the coaching that you've given, and how's that helped him? That's how sort of the video is formulated. So there was subtleties in scripting, but there was more, it was like, Aryan, how do you feel? Let Dad know. So that's how those videos came about.
Okay. It was good to see you being very, very frank, which is another word for being honest. It's also a guy's name.
It is.
And I suppose what us as coaches took out of it was that it was good to see that young students were actually paying attention. It was good for us to see that for the work that we're doing, although whether we had nobody listening to us anyway, we'd still be doing what we're doing just because by teaching you learn, so we learn as well. So, but just to get back from you, the positive nature in the way that you chose to handle it was, for us, it was extremely gratifying and it was a very, very positive thing. And I think your videos came about at a time when I kind of had enough at that stage. So what you did inadvertently was you helped me tremendously. And whether you're aware of that or not, that's just the way that it affected me. So I personally want to say thanks. You did a really, really good job.
We did see your post where you had the TV in the background and you were smiling, and that sort of gave us the thumbs up that it was good.
Yeah. All right. So of course, the interviews, of course, were all your idea, which is fantastic to hear. You did most of the work yourself. Dad was just there to assist you. Fantastic. And that leads me into the next one. How important has it been for you to have your parents help through all of this?
Well, I think it was really nice of my parents to help, because I don't think I could have done it on my own.
Yeah.
Because I probably wouldn't have been able to set up all the things for filming just before the classes. And my dad does cast it to the TV so I can watch it.
Yeah, right. Okay. How much do you think parents being involved with training at home has been good for you? Do you think that if Dad hadn't have said, come on son, sit down, watch this, let's get ready, put your gi on, do you think that was something that helped you to keep training at home?
Well, yes, because you learn more things, and I think it's a good experience for you to know how to do the moves.
I think it's fair to say too that as annoying as parents are, sometimes they do know stuff. Yeah? Sometimes. Yeah, ask my daughter, of course. I don't know anything, but
I think one of the important things, especially doing the videos, is, and something which I got from Aryan, is he loves coming here, right? And he loves coming here and being in front of coaches, right? Interacting with them, talking to them. And so where parents play a good role is as a substitute for the coaches at home, right? Without that, it becomes very difficult for a kid to appreciate what the coaches, all they hear is just a bit of verbal speak coming back from the coaches. So it worked for us, and for parents listening out there, I'd highly encourage them to sort of participate. It doesn't mean you've got to get on the floor and start grappling and get into a chokehold, even though he did a couple of times, and I had to tap out.
I like choking my dad.
Yeah, he does like choking his dad. It is good. It is good, and it does help from a bonding and from a relationship point of view as well. Highly encouraging.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose the side effect of that, of course, is that you get to learn something else. And again, as I've always said, that teaching is the best form of learning. So
absolutely,
it benefits everybody in the long run. So, and I suppose too, the parents that have taken on this role a lot more, especially when you're seeing things at school. Like when Ruby was at school and doing all her schoolwork at school, and she'd come home with her homework, I try and help her with it, but I was very disconnected to it. Only because it wasn't my responsibility to, well, it was, but not as great a responsibility for me to assist her as much as I am now. And then as soon as she was studying at home, I was in a position where it was my responsibility to make sure that everything was right. So therefore, now that she's back at school, I've got a lot more vested interest in what she's doing at school. So then when she comes home, I want to know, how did you go with this? What happened with this? What did you learn about that? Rather than, how was your day? So it helped me to become a little bit more involved as well, which is great when you've got parents and kids that are very well connected. But I believe that it would really help parents who perhaps don't have as much in common with their kids. It just gives them that platform to be able to step up a little bit more. Yeah.
Having said that, I also believe that parents have different intents, different motives, so it doesn't quite work for all parents, right? But you got to find what works for you. Like,
exactly right. Yeah.
Bonding with him comes naturally. Relationships. I mean, we still have our ups and downs, right? There are times when we have tits and tats, but where it matters, we make it work. Right? And to watch the videos, he'll say, "Dad, right, 30 minutes. You've got to come in." So we'll set up our camera and we'll try and follow the classes. And believe it or not, when there's jumping jacks and burpees, I do perform those in the kitchen, right? Not in front of the camera. Is that right?
Sometimes, yeah.
Sometimes, yes.
So after you've finished doing your filming, you've uploaded on the Facebook members page and everybody else has seen, everybody else has made comments, or just knowing that people have watched it, does it kind of feel like you're on that television show? You know, what's that one called? Gogglebox. Because everyone knows what your lounge room looks like. And
Yes.
maybe we should start a show of people watching the online classes.
Yes.
Yeah,
What do you think?
Yes.
I think we could be onto something there. We'll call it Budo Box. That would work. Yeah, I'm sure it would. Not one of my better ideas, but anyway. All right, so of course we've got Michelle Amarelle here today. Now Michelle, you've been a student here for how many years?
About 6, coming up to
6 years.
6, is it, Johnny? We started at the same time. Just about.
Yeah, 6, 7.
6 years.
Yeah.
6 years, of course. Jordan knows everything.
Feels like 20, but
Well, Stella was about 3 months old and
Yes.
she's turning 7, so 6 years.
And we've still got her little notches on the wall over here as well.
Oh, yeah, it's coming up to 7.
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
7 years.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. So, previously to KC Martial Arts, you used to train karate in another system as well, is that right?
Yeah, when I was quite a bit younger. So I think from around the ages of around 10 to 17, I trained. I lived over the other side of the city then, so it was a club down there. I stopped when I was around 17 and then, didn't get back to it until after Stella was born. So.
Okay, no worries. What brought you back?
So a few things. I just had a child and I felt really just weak and unfit, and I had that feeling of, when I did karate as a kid, I felt strong. I'm like, I wanted that back again. So I tried a few different clubs around the area, but when I walked in here, I felt like I was home. I saw that mural on the back wall and I was just like, this is my place. So, and then, there's no looking back.
That's cool.
Yeah.
In that, you've had a lot of ups and downs, and we're working towards black belt at this stage. With all lockdowns, it doesn't really help. It's hard to get Sifu out here for a little while, so we may have to do some sort of hybrid grading. We'll just have to see how things go. But of course, all the gradings here are really, really tough. Now, let's talk a little bit about your work background, because that's why you're here today. Without sort of saying where you work or anything else, what's your job and what's the role that you play?
So my current role, I am involved in doing assessments for aged care services.
Yep.
So in-home services, things like help with cleaning and personal care and things like that. So at the moment, I am a team leader for the assessment team in another council area. Usually, like, my role is to go out and assess people and visit them in their homes and just find out a bit about their background and what they need. So, yeah.
Okay. And previous to that?
So I've worn a few hats before that. So I worked in mental health. That was where I started out, and I did.
Was that age mental health or not?
No, that was adult mental health.
Okay.
So sort of, I think it's around 25 to
just below 60 or
something like that. Yeah. So I worked in community mental health. So I did that for quite a long time. Then I moved into family services and worked with like kind of vulnerable children and their families. And then after I had my own children, I didn't feel like I could go back to that. It was too close to home. So from there, I went into aged services.
How do you think the aged population at the moment is coping to these restrictions? We had the last one, of course, and now you're pretty much boots on the ground as soon as the second lockdown has happened. How do you think they're coping?
Look, it really depends on their social networks. So the people who have family who check in on them regularly obviously are doing a lot better than those people who are very isolated and have no one. The biggest impact, I think, is that at that age group, their social things are really important. So community groups and things like that, and all of that is shut down at the moment. There's also triggers for past traumas. So people that live through wars or depression and things like that are being triggered by events that are happening now. So that's really hard on people.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could only imagine. I think it's fair to say too that certainly from experiences of Fleur, who works with the other age group 25 to 60, the way that they're coping is quite different. So certainly to the age population, I think the age population, besides that lifelong trauma, which of course they've dealt with very, very well, they're doing a lot better.
Yeah.
Just from what I've seen. In fact, I bumped into an old friend of mine at the shopping centre the other day, and I said to him, how do you feel about the lockdown? And he said, well, it is what it is. Been through worse. I thought, well, that's, and he said, back when I was younger, we had lots and lots of things to deal with. We were locked in our homes for extended periods of time, and it wasn't just your conscience keeping you there. It was gunfire and all sorts of things and other bigger threats. So I think when you put things into perspective, it is what it is. But it's one of those things that for our generation, sure, we've got to harden up a little bit, but we've got to understand that it's not as bad as what the world has seen before.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that technology is a big factor.
It is.
Because we can, get on and FaceTime our friends or, family. A lot of the aged population don't have that understanding of technology or access to it. So for those people who are isolated, they are really isolated. Whereas we kind of can go, I'm gonna join a Zoom group with my family members and do that. They don't have the know-how or the sort of technology to do that. So.
And it's funny, they can't even have their smart aleck grandchildren like Jordan over there go over to their place and show them how to do it.
Yeah.
I was actually talking to you the other day, John, about life when we were kids. 12 to 13, 14, and no doubt you would have experienced the same. The only communication device we had besides the telephone in the kitchen, which you can only use for 20 minutes a day if you were lucky,
20 minutes,
was a walkie-talkie.
Yes.
And even then you had to be in line of sight of somebody to talk.
20 metres away.
20 metres away. Actually, I had a really good set. I won't say how I got it, but I had a really good set which you could go up to 100 metres, which we thought was fantastic. You could stand on one side of the football field, and speak to your mate. It was amazing technology. But could you imagine having that lockdown in this particular, in that particular time frame? Just the advancements in technology to allow us to be able to communicate and to do even what it is that we're doing today, be able to reach out and talk. Back when we were kids, the idea of being on a screen, on a television, was something that would only happen in a glimpse if you happened to be in a crowd and the camera managed to get past you, and it was a big deal. Whereas these days, anyone can be a television star. I mean, look at young Aryan. He's a very, very popular television star now. And I suppose that's the benefit that this medium has given us. But when we were kids, it was a lot different, wasn't it?
Exactly. I mean, even just jumping on the PlayStation now, you're playing with headphones, talking to your mate. That just didn't happen back in the 80s or whatever. So,
absolutely not.
Yeah.
Could you imagine Mario Kart? Talking to your mates.
So if it was if this was happening back then, that'd be lockdown would be really different.
Yeah,
it'd really be lockdown. It'd be you wouldn't hear from people at all.
Exactly, and with that breakdown of communication, of course, businesses like ours just wouldn't survive.
No,
that's just the way that it is. You'd be shut down, pack everything up, pack up your toys and go home, and then have another swing at the bat when everything open again. So I think we are extremely lucky, and I think if all of us at home take that advice and realise that the medium that we've got to be able to present and to be able to give those classes back, I think is an extremely important one, and it's certainly not one to overlook. So I'm grateful for that. So just before we go, Aryan, how do you see the world getting through all of this? Do you think everything's going to be okay?
I think in some time, maybe about 2 months or 1 month, I think it should settle down a bit. Mm-hmm. It settled down before, but it came back. Mm. Yeah, so I think it should maybe in a month or two, hopefully. Mm. And
what would you say in terms of being positive over the next coming weeks, months? What would you say?
Be positive. Don't think negative things. You'll get depressed, upset.
So some of the tools that I use when I have a negative thought, I do an exercise. If I have a negative thought, I have to, it's okay to have negative thoughts because that's just what your brain does. And it's a natural thing for your brain to do that. But it's also natural and easier for your brain to cling on to negative runaway thoughts than it is for positive ones. But there's a simple exercise that everyone can do, and that is when you have a negative thought, as soon as you finish with that, put it in this box and then think of something positive. And I try to double up. So I try to get my brain to work twice as hard, which is hard because I'm only a guy. And that is to have 2 positive thoughts on 2 different things for every negative thought that just happens to float into my brain. Do you think that's a good idea?
Oh yes, because 2 is better than 1, and you'll have...
2 is better than 1.
You have more positive thoughts than the negative.
That's it. And it's a numbers game, really. Your brain's just like a computer. It's a numbers game. So I wanted to thank you guys so much for coming on. Dee,
pleasure.
Aryan, number one, your support for the club has been amazing, which we really, really appreciate. Secondly, for going out of your way to do for your son what I believe is a very, very important thing, and that is to support him through his endeavours. And of course, 3, for being here today and sharing your wisdom. Thanks so much. Give a big round of applause. All right, also thank you to our very special guest, Michelle Amarelle, for a little bit of insight today. We'll get you back on. Would you like to come back on the show?
Sure.
It's pretty scary the first time out, isn't it?
You're right.
You tend to sort of speak in 1 or 2 word sentences, but that is what it is. But that being said, you did a much better job than me.
It's not hard.
And of course, our regular panellist, Coach Johnny Virgona. Thanks very much, guys, and we will see you next Saturday.